Good day, everybody. My name is Justin Grotto, and I'm the cybersecurity specialist at Tier 3 IT Solutions. And I am joined by.
My name is Jesse Hill. I'm the president of Tier 3 IT Solutions and glad to have you all here for another episode of Phishing Friday. So, our last episode, we talked about spear phishing. And today, we are going to talk about a different method that malicious actors are using to get access to your information and your finances. And this one is called vishing with a V. So, Justin, tell me about vishing.
Thanks, Jesse. Phishing is basically a phone call made by a criminal attacker. They're masquerading as a legitimate person often, and what their goal is to get you to provide information to them or get them to give you access to something remotely.
Oh, man, this is such an interesting one because it's currently January of 2024. And in the fall of 2023, the MGM hotel and casino chain in Vegas suffered a significant cyber incident. The information that was shared publicly was that the attackers gained access primarily through vishing, where they actually leveraged some of the AI and voice impersonation technology to make a phone call to their support desk to get access to their servers and wreak all kinds of havoc, ultimately costing many, many millions of dollars to that business. But that's a pretty big, high-profile thing. So let's maybe bring it downstream a little bit. What does a vishing attack look like in in a typical small and medium business environment?
Well, to provide like a little scenario for you, let's look at a typical manufacturing company. We'll call them Tech Metal Innovations. They specialize in making aircraft components. An attacker calls them, calls a purchasing manager masquerading as a rep from one of their critical suppliers. Phone number looks like it's correct. The phone number looks like it's from who is calling, and the caller explains there's an urgent issue with the payment for a recent purchase order. They say there's going to be a delay in the shipment if the PO, the issue with the PO is not corrected in time. So the purchasing manager works, diligently with them to resolve the issue in the process. Provides the company financial details to the caller and makes sure that they have everything they need to send out a new invoice. That the caller sends out a new invoice with the financial details attached, all that. But it's different than what they were expecting. But due to urgency of the call, they think, okay, well, this maybe is the issue at hand, and they ignore it and they pay this invoice. The payment clears, and days later, Tech Metal Innovations goes days without realizing that they just sent tens of thousands of dollars to a criminal. The attacker takes advantage in this scenario of operational dependencies on the raw materials of the company to make that urgency, threatening that delay of supplies. And in a manufacturing company, that purchase order might be critical to operations. So the manager decides to give up the sensitive info.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as you're going through this scenario, I'm reminded of some tidbits that I talk to clients about all the time that actually ties back to the spear phishing example we talked about last time. Because we mentioned that in the spear phishing campaigns, they often use information that they've collected through social media, through news releases, through other forms of research. And sometimes the vishing is strictly for research. And what I mean by that is, perhaps, this company has their entire, executive team and their names and titles and contact information listed on their webpage. And so I know who the CEO is and the CFO and the COO and the procurement manager that, as Justin was talking about. And so what I might do is I might call that company. If I'm the attacker, I call the company and I ask for the CEO. And how the person answering the phone handles that request will give me a lot of information. So they might say, oh, she's unavailable right now. Can I tell her, who's calling? And I go, oh, okay, yeah, and I would, as an attacker, I'd give, fake information. Or they might say, oh, sure, she's available. Can I tell her who's calling? I'll put you through. Same deal. Now, when they go to transfer my call, I'm going to hang up. I'm not going to actually go through and take the call. And then I'll call again the next week and do the same thing, and the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that. And eventually they'll say, sorry, she's not available this week. She's out of the office. And I'll go, oh man, are you kidding me? I could have sworn we were getting together for lunch this week. Like, is she out of town on a holiday, or where did she go? And they might tell me, oh yeah, she's, taking her 2 weeks, gone golfing in Palm Springs. Well, what do you think the CFO gets? They get an email within a couple of days, pretending to be the CEO, and it'll have information that says, hey, I just got off the golf course in Palm Springs, had a great round, found an amazing deal on, a backhoe, and I need you to wire $150,000 to, this address. So a lot of times the vishing and the spear phishing, they get brought together to develop their operational intelligence. So, I mean, there's a couple stories here. So I guess, Justin, part of what we want to do is think about how can we help small and medium businesses avoid or mitigate, the risk from these types of attacks.
When we're operating, we need to implement these secure business processes, these verifications to ensure that you're not just trusting someone that has some maybe pre-acquired information, that there's always a verification route. There's always a secure established channel so you can validate, any changes to financial information, any, changes to what email address you're sending something to, or who is, a representative that you're working with. And in this case, of the critical supplier, they could have pretended to be someone that you already know, but then they could have been maybe spoofing. If you know them really well, you might recognize that it's not the voice. You might recognize that they never say best regards in their emails. They always say cheers or something like that. They never make spelling mistakes, and not something so rudimentary as missing an L here or whatever, right? So you can add a few different things, but you always want to make sure that anything that is a change or anything that is suspicious, that you're making that clear line of communication to a point of contact and trust, to verify that anything is outside of the norm or seems urgent, like too urgent to be realistic.
I want to point out, you mentioned there they could be spoofing some information, and so spoofing is a term that we use a lot of times. We'll be using it to talk about email. And so I could send an email from an account that I own and operate, and I can make it appear as if it's coming from a different email address. So the email address of a vendor that you might normally expect. And when you open the email, it looks like it came from them, unless you know how to identify that. You can also spoof a phone number. So if you're on the phone, with a vendor, and you look at the caller ID and it says what phone number they're calling from, that's not necessarily true. So what Justin is talking about is, if in a situation where you're being pressured to make a change, to make an urgent payment, to bypass your normal business processes, just take that step back. So, you know what? we want to solve this problem too, but I'm going to have to call you back. I'm going to have to, I'm in the middle of something. Let me get to this when I'm, finished that. And always make sure that you are verifying through an alternate means, right? You're not hitting reply on that email. You're starting a new email chain. You're not, trusting the caller ID. You're hanging up, you're calling back to a verified number that you have in your database. Like he said, you want to, you want to verify any of those changes before you make them. And it's always a good idea to have, processes where, particularly big changes like payment information, where maybe 2 people in your organization need to be involved in that change, so that you've got, a second set of eyes. You also have something that slows that process down, because it's quite unusual for a business to want to change their payment and banking information. Like, it's a big pain in the butt.
A little bit more about, we mentioned spoofing and masquerading. A topic that comes up is the use of AI to generate voice. So if they might be able to record a few minutes of conversation that may be unrelated to a malicious conversation or malicious attack, and then use AI to spoof the voice of the point of contact to make it seem like they are that person over the phone. So that's something else to be, to consider as well.
So I think what Justin is saying is, if you ever get a phone call from me or Justin or anybody else who has a video of themselves online, you can't trust it unless you're the one initiating it. Because that technology exists now and it is being used. It's accessible. All right. So, all right. Great chat on Vishing. Appreciate it, Justin. Thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of Phishing Friday. We'll see you again in the next one.